guys, and welcome to today's episode of the vlog series. Today we're going to talk to you about what happens on the first day, the first week, the first month when you arrive in the NHS. Okay, so the first point to note is that before you arrive, be prepared for your first day. So have copies of all of your documentation to hand, because the HR department will probably want to see them on your first day. They're going to need to see your identity, of course, so keep your passport with you whenever you attend. Things like copies of your certificates, your GMC registration certificate, even your primary medical qualification, certainly your postgraduate qualifications. You're going to need copies of all those things, so do take them along, have them to hand and have them ready. One of the first things that's going to happen, it might even be before you go to the hospital, is that you'll need to pick up your biometric residence permit. That will be delivered to the post office that's local to the address that you put on the application for your visa. So usually the nearest post office to the hospital you're working in. Another consideration, get your national insurance number as early as you can. You'll be put on an emergency tax code if you don't go and get it. So something to consider, as you'll need to book in an appointment at the job centre in order to obtain that. Okay, so the next stage is probably the first week, maybe 2 weeks after you actually arrive in the UK. And I think the first thing to note with this is the time where it can feel quite stressful. I think lots of people think they'll maybe arrive on Saturday and start work on Monday, and there's a lot of excitement as you're flying into the country. And actually it can feel like a bit of an anticlimax, because you've got that week or two where you've arrived but you haven't started work, and it can be quite an anxious time. So keep that in mind. The best thing to do is be prepared for it, be prepared for the time that you'll have and the things that you're going to need to do during that time. So first of all, make yourself known to the HR department. There's lots of things you're going to need to do in terms of inductions with the hospital, in terms of getting your IT logins and all your support for that. There'll be mandatory training that you'll need to complete on arrival, things like CRB forms and document checks and all those bits and pieces. Familiarise yourself with the hospital, with the departments. Just because you're not necessarily started seeing patients, you may be able to get a tour or do some shadowing and speak to the doctors that you're going to be working with. Okay, so your first month in the NHS, we're going a bit longer term now. This is the time that's really important to try and settle in as much as possible. So you're going to want to familiarise yourself with your surroundings, of course. First things first, introduce yourself to the consultants, to the other senior registrars, the junior doctors, the nurses, everyone that's going to be important to you working in that ward or that department. You're probably going to start on a supernumerary period, so you won't be placed on the on-call rota or expected to do anything independently or outside of normal hours. So make the most of that time to familiarise yourself with your surroundings, learn where everything is, all of the processes, the protocols, all those bits and pieces, so that hopefully after your first month, or maybe 2-3 months, depending on how long you're on that supernumerary period, you're ready and feeling prepared to take on the night shifts, the weekend shifts, the on-call rota and that kind of thing. Okay, so hopefully that's been of some use in finding out a bit more about what happens after you arrive but before you start, and in that first kind of week to month of you arriving in the NHS. Of course, before you get to that stage, you're going to need a job, so hopefully that's where we can help you. If you'd like to hear about our vacancies at the moment, please do get in touch. As always, we'll put the contact details up at the end of the video. Thanks.